Hey guys, Bubba here at the Bubbanews, all in one word, all in one news. How are you guys doing tonight? I can't believe it is one weekend away from July 4th weekend. Goodness, we've got a lot to talk about tonight regarding Israel, but then with the shooting there in Idaho outside of Coeur d'Alene tonight. Could be an act of terrorism and whatnot. So that's basically a preview of what could be coming next weekend, because there's lots of predictive programming coming up for next weekend and what could go wrong in America. So I have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, there's a lot that we're going to get to. But let's just get right to, and actually we're going to cover just 2 days of news, yesterday and today. This is getting crazy. But I threw this up yesterday. She will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. Matthew 1:21. We see the gospel message right there in the first, the first chapter of Matthew. It's so cool, guys. We're getting so close to the end, and we know that Jesus saves from sin. And if you are not saved yet, you need to now, because you are not guaranteed your life's next breath. Daniel 5:23. But there's a lot that could go wrong. What else could go wrong? Well, a lot, because Iran announced yesterday that they are going to remove all video surveillance from all of their nuclear facilities. So they're no longer going to be confirming to any International Atomic Energy Agency rules or regulations. Iran is also barring the IAEA chief here, Rafael Grossi, from entering the country, and refuses camera installations at nuclear sites. So that's one thing we have to keep an eye on with Iran, but we also have Hamas, we also have the Houthis, and we have Hezbollah. But yesterday there was a major scandal that went on at the Glastonbury Music Festival in England. It went from free Palestine to death to the IDF. This is crazy, and it was chanted from the stage by Bob Vylan in front of 200,000 people, and tens of thousands of people chanted along. And the reason I'm even going to bring this up is because I'm going to cover it at the end of the video. But there were loads of Palestinian and Hezbollah flags seen in the audience, along with Hamas, Lebanon, and even Syrian flags. But this is how the radicalism is being spread in the West by this progressive movement, and how this hateful rhetoric leads to deadly attacks against Jews and Israelis in Europe. Watch this. This is nuts.
Free! Alright, but have you heard this one, though? Death to the IDF! 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 Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be free.
Isn't that nuts? Just actually calling for death to the IDF. I mean, this is a pledge, and this is a movement to eradicate the Jewish people from the earth. And I mean, this is getting crazy too, because even the Humanitarian Foundation that has handed out now 51 million meals in the past 30 days to Gazans. Well, the GHF is actively, Hamas is targeting these people, and they're placing cash bounties on both American security personnel and Palestinian aid workers. Hamas is deploying armed operatives near the aid zones to disrupt the humanitarian efforts. And 12 of these staff members have already been taken out, and others have been tortured. But these aid workers continue to risk their lives to feed the Gazan people. The food distribution is nearing almost close to 2 million meals per day now. They're really getting up there with the meals and helping out the Gazan people, but they are still being pounded by the Hamas. But speaking of Hamas, with another age, we've got the Houthis, because the Houthis launched a missile on Israel early Saturday morning. And even Israel Defense Minister Israel Katz instructed the IDF to prepare for a broad campaign against the Houthis in Yemen. He said the Houthis fired towards Israel almost daily, and some of the missiles don't reach us and disintegrate en route. But this reality cannot continue. The Houthis will pay a heavy price. So we've got the Houthis that Israel is going to be dealing with, in addition to Hamas, in addition to Iran. Hezbollah's next. So Hezbollah continues to threaten Israel as well, but they haven't acted in any attacks yet. But they said that we are capable of confronting and defeating Israel. This is what the Hezbollah Secretary-General Naim Qassem said yesterday. He said, when we win, and when we die as martyrs, we win. We are calm because Allah is with us, and He is the one who grants us victory. Victories are from Allah. The most important thing is that we be convinced that we are victorious by the grace of Allah. As for the trials that are befalling us now, we must be patient. Victory comes with patience. Yeah. They're going to move in and still try to eradicate the Jews in the days to come. Psalm 83, 6 through 8, Ezekiel 25, 12 through 17, and Zechariah 12, 1 through 9. So many areas that are coming up with prophecies, but this is another big one because this huge catastrophe could be striking the Gulf states and Iran. And the fallout could get ugly fairly quickly here in the next week or so. Here's why. Because in the past 20 years, India has dominated the software industry. And as a result, Gulf nations and Iran have heavily relied on the Indian software and their programmers. But after a Mossad infiltration in Iran a few weeks ago with the Iran-Israel war and subsequent investigations between China and Russia, it has been revealed that Indian programmers have been in contact with India via Elon Musk's Starlink because they've been arresting people. But here's what it says. Most Indian software in Iran is actually Israeli because the software is embedded with back doors. This is built into the software that transmits real-time data to Israel. This includes sensitive information like civil registries, passport data, airport systems, and more. But even more concerning is the software disrupts military devices and enables remote control operations, which Israel hasn't even used yet. And the same software is being used in the Gulf states like the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait. So this means that entry and exit points for everyone entering these countries, including Egyptians, are being monitored and shared with Israel. So a massive fallout with India is coming with full details expected to come out in the next few days. But, you know, Trump is on a mission lately on behalf of Netanyahu because this is Trump's second post on the Netanyahu trial in the past 4 days and what appears to be a campaign by the president on this issue. Because in this post, Trump makes an implicit and unprecedented threat that Trump may suspend military aid to Israel if Netanyahu's trial is not overturned. So Trump's post comes against the backdrop of the judge's decision to reject Netanyahu's request to cancel the hearings in his trial in the next 2 weeks due to political and security considerations. I mean, I don't know, we're going to have to keep an eye on that one too, but talk about a loose cannon. But on top of it all, Iran is now accusing Azerbaijan for assisting Israel in the bombing campaign on Tehran. So I'm wondering, is a new war front going to open up in Azerbaijan? Because the Iranian ambassador said that we asked for a serious investigation and Iran's next steps depend on what Azerbaijan presents to them. But meanwhile, in Azerbaijan, a female anchor on state-run TV claimed the Azerbaijan army may soon enter Tabriz, Iran, with an invasion. So it almost sounds like a direct threat, or it could be a reckless media war, wanting ratings. But Israel's staying silent. But its fingerprints are everywhere because Tel Aviv's alleged use of the proxies to strike Iran ignites Tehran's paranoia, and rightly so. I do know that Israel used some air bases, made-up air bases there in Syria, and they do have a secret air base in Azerbaijan. But here's the thing, because Azerbaijan balances the animosity between Israel, Turkey, and Iran. And the Azerbaijan leader is there on the left. But if evidence confirms this, Azerbaijan risks being pulled into this Iran-Israel proxy war really soon. Now, this is nuts, too, because Trump came out with this talking about this is not good for Americans and freedom or American longevity. But you know what? Everything is going as planned. The destruction of the U.S. dollar will make way for a new global standard to emerge. The U.S. Senate approved Trump's spending and tax bill known as the Great Big Beautiful Bill. 51 people voted for it, 49 voted against it. This is crazy because Musk called this bill an abomination because he believes that the project will lead to unsustainable debt for Americans. But check it out, because under the Big Beautiful Bill, federal lands like Teton National Forest will be put up for sale to pay for tax cuts for the rich. Earth dwellers won't be enjoying these views much longer. And I was researching it, and there are millions and millions of acres to be sold. This is nuts. The bill forces the arbitrary sale of at least 2 million acres of Forest Service land and Bureau of Land Management lands in 11 western states over the next 5 years, and it gives the Secretaries of the Interior and Agriculture broad discretion to choose which places should be sold off. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of corruption involved in deciding who to sell this land to. Seriously, this is nuts. And I put the link in the Telegram. I'll throw it in the description box below, but you can look this up yourself online. And you can scroll in. And Colorado, I scrolled in there, and there's so many areas in Washington State even. A lot of this beautiful forest land is going to be gone. This is crazy. But they're talking they might be able to sell it for up to $500 trillion. I mean, talk about you'll own nothing and be happy, but they want to pay off this debt, supposedly. But speaking of all the debt, oh boy, Israel's going to get going hard on Hamas because they're talking about doing a wider military operation that will be different from their previous offenses. Because if the hostage negotiations do not result in a breakthrough in the coming days, the IDF is expected to embark on a much bigger military operation. I mean, even inside the IDF, there's an ongoing debate over whether to press forward militarily or declare the war's main objectives being achieved. Because there's some high-ranking officers that believe a wide-scale ground operation remains necessary. And this would likely result in the largest Gazan civilian displacement since the war on Hamas began. I mean, a mass evacuation could turn the Palestinian public against Hamas. Israeli forces say that the plans are being discussed to evacuate Gazans from key areas. So this scenario would require the deployment of 5 fully manned divisions, in contrast to the partial deployments used early in the war. But it sounds like the prophecies of the ultimate destruction of Gaza is inbound in the days to come, because there's some big prophecies that will find fulfillment soon. I'll give you some of those scriptures. Amos 1, 6 through 8. Jeremiah 47, verses 4 through 7. Zephaniah 2, verses 4 through 7. And I'm going to read to you Ezekiel 25, verses 15 to 17. Thus says the Lord God, because the Philistines dealt vengefully and took vengeance with a spiteful heart to destroy because of the old hatred or the eternal enmity, therefore thus says the Lord God, I will stretch out my hand against the Philistines, Hamas. I will destroy the remnant of the seacoast, the Mediterranean seacoast. I will execute great vengeance on them with furious rebukes, and they shall know that I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon them. Let's keep going with another Bible verse. Philippians 4, 6 to 7. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Because if we don't fill our minds with the Word of God, the enemy will fill it with fear, anxiety, stress, worry, and temptation. And this guy might look a little fearful himself, but I have no fear about this guy. But this goober, he's the highest religious authority in Shia Islam. Makarem Shirazi has labeled Trump and Netanyahu as Moharib. These are enemies of God, and has issued a fatwa. This is a legal ruling against Trump and Bibi. Basically, the evil regime in Iran is now commanding Muslims everywhere to murder both Netanyahu and Trump. I mean, this ruling is a direct response to the U.S. threats against the Ayatollah Khomeini, because he specifically targeted President Trump. And speaking of Trump, there's all kinds of planned, there's lots of plans coming up, but everyone's still focused on July 4th weekend, next weekend, with everything that's going on after he just had his big parade in D.C., a few weeks ago, this, that, the other. But, earlier today, we thought this could have been a precursor to next weekend, July 4th weekend, because it was reported that a car explosion in D.C. happened. A van erupted in flames.
Whoa.
That just started.
23rd Street South, Sunday, June 29th. Wow. That doesn't look... That almost looks like an explosion.
It looks like an explosion. I turned and it wasn't there. And then all of a sudden it was there.
Uh-oh. Look. That is not a top bar.
So everybody's on edge because it first came out that this was a massive explosion. Some witnesses were fearing that it was a terrorist attack. But you know what it was? Everybody is just on edge right now. It was an Amazon truck that caught fire. I mean, the predictive programming is so strong lately. I mean, the headline, Truck Explosion Rocks DC. I mean, look at this thing. And this thing is known for its engine fires. Oh, yeah. But speaking of fires, it's been a busy night so far. This is how it started off at sunset in Gaza City. And, Netanyahu had a big meeting today with his cabinet members on the hostage deal. But no Gaza ceasefire decision was reached tonight. And additional discussions have been scheduled. An Israeli official said there's still no indications of progress. So they're still trying to get to this peace deal on a ceasefire to get back the hostages, number one, and to wrap it up going against Hamas. But Hamas still wants Israel to make this a permanent ceasefire and not just a 60-day ceasefire. Oh, yeah. But even the Egyptian foreign minister today said that work is underway for the potential Gaza ceasefire agreement, which would include a 60-day ceasefire truce with the hope of moving to the next phase. So the foreign minister today said that the U.S. understands that any agreement on Gaza must include guarantees for the sustainability of the ceasefire and that Israel will not resume the war with Hamas. Even a senior Hamas official tonight said that ceasefire negotiations are currently stalled because Israel insists on continuing the war. In an interview with Al Jazeera, he said that Hamas will not agree to any condition that affects its sovereignty in Gaza or its Hamas weapons. Hey. So while we have this going on with Hamas, there's still lots of talks about the Abraham Accords and the discussions going on. Today, Channel 14 in Israel reported that Trump and Netanyahu's roadmap for the Middle East normalization in the coming months fall under the title of Syria First. So they say that significant progress has been made in recent weeks with the new regime in Damascus. But Al-Shara there on the right, Jelani, he's less focused on ending the war in Gaza. He's more focused on the removing of American sanctions on Syria, which Trump said he's going to do. But the Americans are seeking to link normalization with Syria as a thaw to the Israel and Turkey relations. And against this backdrop, Tom Barak, which is the U.S. ambassador to Turkey and also the special envoy to Syria, said today that the dispute between Washington and Turkey over the supply of the F-35 aircraft may soon also be resolved. I hope they don't give Turkey those F-35s, but the next stage is expected to involve the Saudis, but only after the war in Gaza ends, which is why Trump is saying end the war in Gaza now. But according to the sources in Jerusalem, the war is expected to end in the coming few weeks or months, either by a military victory or Hamas signing a surrender deal. Because if Saudi Arabia joins the Abraham Accords, the expectation is that Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim majority country, will follow suit. And the Saudis may later bring along with them to the Abraham Accords their closest ally, Pakistan. But that's the second largest Muslim country. With Pakistan, things are a lot more complex. I can't see that happening, and I can't see Indonesia joining either. In any case, according to the plans in Jerusalem and D.C., all of this is scheduled to unfold, they say, technically in the next 6 to 12 months. Watch it be 3 months. But a highly ambitious and optimistic goal in the light of the dramatic changes in the region, especially the fall of Iran, can't be ruled out. But also not being ruled out is Israel attacking Iran, because Israel said that they will launch a new military attack on Iran within a week. This is what a senior official said on the IRIB, the Islamic Republic of Iran broadcasting station. Israel is preparing for a new large-scale military operation against Iran including a second round of major strikes, according to Al Arabiya, and they're a Saudi media center. But even 2 days ago, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced that the IDF will begin striking any Iranian target that Israel views as being a threat going forward, despite Trump's ceasefire. So the next few weeks could get very explosive on the war fronts with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iran. And even today, the media was reporting that al-Shara Jolani, he's going to soon meet Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. They're saying that the leader of Syria is likely to meet Netanyahu on the sidelines of an upcoming UN General Assembly meeting. So we'll have to look up and find out what big General Assembly meetings are coming up and who's going when, where, and how. That could be coming up even in August, I believe. The beginning of August, right around Tisha B'Av. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But, the relationship between the two countries could be of great importance because they say that both are effectively against Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Iran, and Hezbollah. At least that's what Israel's Khan News was reporting. Israel is against these terrorists, of course, but I just don't understand how Israel can trust a terrorist like Jolani. Just because he has a nice suit doesn't mean he has a change of heart. But another source citing Syrian officials claimed that the Damascus government will give up this Golan Heights. So something's not making sense with all this media going on. But you know what else is not making sense in this crazy world is today, this afternoon, a forest fire was created there outside of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to create an ambush for the first responders who arrived to the scene. An active shooter opened fire on firefighters battling a brush fire. Earlier, it was reported that at least 9 firefighters and 2 police officers were shot after a gunman ambushed them during this response. The last report I saw is that 1 officer has lost his life, and at least 2 firefighters have, possibly 3. One's under surgery, I guess, in serious condition, the last I saw. But what makes it sad were the firemen, they were battalion chiefs, 2 battalion chiefs that were knocked off. So the scene remains active and victims are being accounted for, and they're going to have a press release there at 9:30 p.m. Pacific time in Coeur d'Alene from the police, the next one. But, this was a message, a strategic and psychological and deeply embedded in the operational logic of asymmetric warfare. This is basically a 4th generation warfare. By targeting firefighters because they're civilian, they're non-combat personnel, and they serve, these I don't know who these guys are that are doing this against these firemen and the first responders, but, it diverts law enforcement from proactively policing to reactive chaos, and it neutralizes the trust in the local government's ability to protect and serve. But confusion is the point. Because this mirrors a counterinsurgency dry run. A low-scale emergency, they started a brush fire. A soft target response, firefighters, a rapid escalation via gunfire, resulting in tactical lockdowns of entire municipalities. So this was basically operational signaling, and I don't know to who, but this was a decentralized call to action prior to civil breakdown events or false flag escalations that could usher in martial control, martial law control. It could be even next week. This is crazy because this was cloaked as a random attack, but the target and the location and the timing is a much higher event. I mean, this was not an accident. This was an operation ongoing. It's just crazy because, this came out, and I didn't get this right, but at the bottom there it says update right in the middle. 3 firefighters and 1 deputy have been confirmed deceased. Active shooter still going. And that was from the Spokane News there. But the idea, or the Idaho, the IDF sheriff. I wish they had some IDF guys out there. They could have gotten this guy. But the Idaho sheriff in command said, if anyone gets a clear shot of the shooter, take him out. So remember how we were talking about the Bob Villain guy that was chanting death, death to the IDF at the beginning of the broadcast? Well, this came out tonight. And I said good because the State Department is moving to revoke Bobby Villain's visa ahead of his upcoming U.S. music tour later this year. A U.S. State Department official said the U.S. will not issue visas to foreigners who support terrorists. The State Department's move to revoke visas for those promoting hate speech is long overdue. And Bobby Villan's death to the IDF chants at the Glastonbury Music Festival, it crossed into explicit incitement, not free expression. U.S. taxpayers shouldn't have to fund platforms for these extremists who are advocating for violence against our allies. I mean, this aligns with existing laws barring entry to foreign nationals who engage in terrorist sympathies or ethnic hatred. That's what I'm saying. In this weekend update, there's all kinds of crazy news going on. Speaking of crazy news, this is wild. Just wild. Tomorrow, they are installing brand new street signs in Israel that will be pointing the way to the coming new temple. Look at the sign. Look at the symbol that is on the IDF soldiers' patches, referring to the third temple coming. The Hebrew translated says, tomorrow when you drive on the roads, you will know how to reach the mount of the house of God. They're getting ready for this third temple. This is just getting wild because, and I forgot to cover this too, but Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, actually it was Itamar Ben-Gvir the other day, he said that he now will allow celebrations and singing and dancing on the Temple Mount by Israelis going up there. He is really going to stir this fire. But this is something else I'm watching because Israel's installing more IDF soldiers along the entire Israel and Jordan border. The IDF knows how porous this is. The IDF's new 96th Galad Division is set to be responsible for the entire Jordan border area. They just completed their first division level drill this week. They had an exercise on Thursday and they simulated emergency scenarios and rapid response to sudden events while increasing the division's readiness for combat. So the 96th Division completed a rapid formation within 48 hours during the war in Iran after initially being set for deployment coming up on August 1st, but now they're getting ready to, and they're going now. So it took up responsibility for the entire northern Jordan Valley area. The division is actually set to operate from the Israel, Jordan, Syria tribe border area up there by the Golan Heights all the way down to Ramon Airport in Eilat at the southern tip of Israel, all along Israel's Jordan border, which is also going to encompass the Yoav Regional Brigade, which is currently part of the 80th Edom. EDOM. Yes, that Edom Division. The prophetic name of southern Jordan. You know, you've got Ammon, Jordan up there at the top. You've got Moab, which is discussing the central Jordan. And you have Edom down there in southern Jordan. There's so much going on, and we are just getting caught up to just a couple of the big stories that have popped up. I'll try to keep this weekend update short, but guys, you guys have been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for your prayers. I've been taking the past couple days and getting back out there and doing DoorDash to provide for the family. And we go back to therapy on, I think it's Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday the 2nd for Mrs. Bubba with her physical therapy. So she could be wrapping up that pretty soon. And her range of motion is getting better as she tries to just stretch and push her arm up. I know it's so painful. And oh man, I can't even imagine. But guys, I continue to ask for your prayers for her. And ask for your prayers for me. I'm just exhausted. Getting 60 deliveries in the past 3-4 days of doing the DoorDash and just trying to put out news and get caught up with everything else. But there's so much prophetic stuff coming up. Oh, I forgot. Then maybe we won't go there. But yeah, why not? I just threw it up here. Yeah, we'll go there. I was thinking about doing a video on this because a lot of people have read these verses. This is actually not discussing the harpazo. This is not talking about the rapture at all. This is discussing the angel harvest at the second coming, at the end of the 7-year tribulation. Then there will be 2 men in the field. One will be taken, one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken, and one will be left. This is a really cool Bible study, and it's one that I heard from Billy Crone a couple years ago on one of his rapture videos. It's video number 4 in a series of 10, I believe. But here's some of the verses, and I'll let you guys start digging into it if you want. But seriously, take a screenshot or whatnot. But seriously, dive into this. And right down there at the very bottom, Revelation 14, verses 14 to 20, tell us all about the reapers. And the reapers are angels. Because angels are going to have to collect those for the wheats to separate the wheat from the tares. The angels are going to have to separate or gather those, the sheep and the goats, and they'll all be brought there to the Valley of Decision, the Valley of Jehoshaphat. This is really wild. But anyway, okay, now I get excited because I start talking Bible prophecy and doing these studies with you guys. But this will be a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't want to keep you guys. But thank you so much for being here. And yeah, we'll do this new update. We'll get this weekend updated. And we'll see you here, there, in the air. I'm sure there'll be lots of news coming out here in the next couple days as we go forward into end-time Bible prophecy, because we know that the Lord Jesus Christ is coming so very soon. Maranatha, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.